Okay, first off I need to give just a bit of background. I live out in the woods, as in literally so far out in the forest that we only just got DSL a few years ago. I've been living in the woods since I was 10, and am currently 26. I've even gone out and hiked around in the dark a few times. So long as you have a good flashlight and a gun, then you should be fine. My family has a pair of horses that have always been for riding. They are brothers and always stick together. Anytime one is missing, the remaining one will start having a fit. So when one started having a fit just as dusk was falling, it was obvious his brother got out of the pen. This always happens early in the spring since the smell of fresh plant life will drive the boys nuts. Anyone who lives in the woods or walks through them will tell you that at night, the forest will always look nothing like how it does during the day, and honestly becomes far creepier than anywhere else short of an abandoned building or cemetery. Anyways, I grabbed my 12 gauge, a strong flashlight, and a lead rope before heading out. The mountain I live on is crossed with miles of logging roads and quad trails, and right behind one part of the horse pen, it opens to one such trail. When I get to the pen, I see the horse looking out towards the path, nickering and whining, hoping his brother would come back. As soon as I step onto the path, I have two choices. Left leads downhill, and right is uphill. Last time the horse got out, he was found a ways up the right-hand path, so that's where I decide to start searching. The whole time I'm hiking, I'm also listening carefully for any sound of movements that could clue me into where he could be. But all I hear is the sound of a light wind, branches falling, and trees swaying. As if the dark isn't bad enough, but the complete lack of any animal sounds always give the atmosphere just a slight touch of added creepy. After traveling about halfway up the trail, I can't help realizing the hair on the back of my neck is on end. This is always a sign that something unpleasant is close by, though that normal would just be a bear or cougar. Both are unpleasant, but we only have small bears, and a cougar wouldn't bother with a human while there are so many deer around, not to mention I have a 12 gauge loaded with 00 buck. Still, I turned because if there was something here, then the horse would have fled back towards home as soon as it noticed something wasn't right. While heading back, I realized the feeling wasn't going away and was only getting worse. One thing I've been taught for years is to never run, because if it is a cougar, then running could potentially cause it to chase and attack, much like how a house cat will watch a mouse until it runs before pouncing. Despite the feeling of looming terror, I keep walking back and soon came to where my home meets the trails. I still needed to find the horse, and being so close to home I felt a bit better, so I started down the left path. I only made it a few steps before I had to stop. Something was off, even if it was impossible to see anything obviously wrong. I stood staring down the path but could still see nothing. No movements, no eyes glowing in the flashlight's beam. Nothing. I still couldn't make myself walk down the path as every sense was screaming to leave. I pulls my shotgun up, pumped it just to try and make myself feel better, and so I could tell myself it's loaded and ready. Finally, I forced myself to start down the path. At first, nothing happened. I got several yards down, and I saw and heard nothing, so I started feeling better. Then I heard something, and froze. It was a simple knock, like someone knocking on a door. There was 3 knocks in rapid succession that came from just a few yards ahead and just off the path. I shined my light in that direction, but only saw thick brush. It was then I heard the same knock, but this time from behind me, so I turned and pointed my light towards where this sound came from, but still nothing. The knocking was so regular and so slow that there was no way to justify it as a branch falling or 2 trees rubbing. The first thought that came into my head was a warning or signal to someone else in the area, like a signal to spring a trap. I immediately backed up, looking from one spot to the other, with gun raised and ready. I slowly made my way back up the trail, not turning my back on any of the areas, any longer than I thought was safe. I'm 26 years old, 6'2", and 275 lbos. But right then I felt like I was a child who's afraid of the dark. I left the woods walking backwards for about half the way, expecting something to jump out at me, and I could have sworn that I saw something. Some pair of eyes glowing from the bush, but I was so terrified that it could have been light shining off of anything. When I got back onto our property, I saw something that made me go from terrified to pissed in less than a second. The horse was back, and he was standing at the gate, looking at me as if to say, "About time you got here. Let me in." After this experience, I vowed never to go back into the woods after dark, so long as I can help it. I have no idea what was in the woods, and honestly, I don't have any desire to find out what it was. First thing tomorrow, I'm going to make it impossible for that horse to ever get out again.